Now, this show is all about understanding what goes on behind the scenes of football. And on our panel today, we are extremely lucky to have the founder and the CEO of one of the country's newest clubs, Hashtag Utd FC, formed in 2016 after originally playing exhibition matches on YouTube. Now they are competitive. They started that in 2018. They've since seen 3 promotions in 6 years. Spencer, what a journey it has been so far. I guess the first question I have for you is for you to be able to tell us a bit about how this all came about, because it is just such an unusual way for a club to be founded.
Yes, it is. It is and it kind of isn't. So it's very modern, I'd say, would be the best way to categorise it. You know, so the kind of skinny version of the history is, you know, I have a sort of almost 20-year career in YouTube now, right? I'm one of the old boys. And I was able to get a sort of following on my YouTube channel and wanted to start essentially playing. I used to play in the team myself with my friends and making content from that. And I had this sort of belief that there was something we could do that would be interesting to people to watch. And there's already a bit of a proof of concept, people making things like Sunday League content on YouTube. And I thought, right, how can we innovate this, take it a bit further? So Hashtag was born. And then after a couple of years of sort of creating a brand, if you like, we entered the non-league pyramid. So obviously, when you say about us being one of the newest clubs, there's new clubs built all the time. I think probably what we've done is actually impacted the pyramid a little bit as a new club. I don't think there's a club higher than us in the men's game that's younger. So we're the youngest club at that level, if you like, and above. You know, but we are almost 10 years old now, which is partly linked to my first point, which is, you know, all these clubs, these 100-year clubs that really have the real privilege of going up against in non-league, they all started from somewhere. You know, if I use my team again, West Ham as an example, right? We used to be called Thames Ironworks. Okay, so that was it was a factory team of people that worked together in an environment. We were called Hashtag Utd originally because the people on that team all worked in social media, right? And that was our background. It's no different. It's the same concept. It's just 100 years later. There's people working in an industry that didn't exist 100 years ago. Whether we're called Hashtag Utd in 100 years, who knows? We might have a different name. We might decide that it's going to be to the benefit of the club to put a geographical location in our name, all these different things which we're often sort of told. But yeah, in terms of origin, it's very a tale as old as time when it comes to football. A group of people creating a club and having a little bit of success with it. It's just a name that probably divides opinion, or definitely divides opinion, and maybe ruffles some feathers. I think what some of our detractors maybe haven't quite realised yet is that is the secret sauce, in my opinion. You know, when we have an FA Cup run like we did, for example, a few years ago, and then we get put on TV and things like this, it's because of our name. If we were just named after the town that I come from, you know, it wouldn't have travelled the distance it has. We wouldn't have fans in every country in the globe, and we wouldn't have people watching us and buying our shirts and all this stuff. So the other thing I'll say is that I realised quite early on in my journey as a football club owner that my job is not to make everyone support my team, because that's never happened in football. No one's ever achieved that in the history of the game, to have everyone support your team. Your job is to find your people. And I think most clubs, that's around a geographical location, right? But for Hashtag, what the name does is it quite quickly rules out the people that aren't going to support you, and it helps me concentrate on the ones that might. It's the sensibility, that ties us together, of internet users and what have you. So, yeah, that's. I mean, I could talk all day about it clearly, but it's been a wild sort of 9 years.
Yeah, it's good. Well, it's good to start with a bit of rivalry straight from the off as well, isn't it? We love that about football, don't we? But I wanted to ask you about those initial days, especially when you turned competitive. Were there any barriers that were put against you from building a team that was going to challenge in those divisions? Maybe it came from the FA, from other areas as well. What kind of barriers did you face?
Well, I mean, we had some barriers. We had some luck as well. The fact that we entered something called Step 6, which is essentially the 10th tier of English football, right? So we were probably able to enter a couple of steps on the pyramid higher than most teams would, and there was a couple of reasons for that. One was because just pure luck, where we come from in Essex, there was no Step 6 league. So it was actually being created for the first time. And so they needed teams for it. So they were allowing people to apply from lower leagues, and we applied from outside of non-league. And the other reason was that, when we had done games in front of crowds before that, they had quite substantial attendances. And anything below Step 6 is really just park football with a rope around a pitch. And if you have hundreds of fans turning up, that's not particularly safe. It's the exact same logic that FC United of Manchester and AFC Wimbledon used when they entered the pyramid, actually at the level higher than we did. So we knew there was precedent. In terms of obstacles, we were told we needed to change our name. We were told we needed to put a place in our name. And it took me all of 12 seconds to provide a list of examples of clubs that aren't from places. Like, people don't realise Port Vale isn't a place, for example. You know, they've been in the EFL for forever. Even in the league we went into, there was a team called Fire United, who were named after an element. And there was a team called Lopes Tavares, which were a Portuguese kind of diaspora team. But I think people just assumed, because it was a foreign language, that must be a place in Portugal. It was just the name of the owner. The guy was called Miguel Lopes Tavares. So they were allowed, but we couldn't be called something called Hashtag United, which was a 2-year-old brand with hundreds of thousands of followers. So you see that we won that argument quite easily. And since then, it's just been a case of, like I said before, you know, whether we're people's cup of tea or not. We try really hard to not deserve criticism. I think that's the most important thing. Not do anything where I might actually lose sleep at night because we made a mistake or we did something wrong. I made peace with the idea of people just not supporting our club a long time ago.
Matt, I just want to bring you in on this because, as we've just heard there, you know, that process of founding a club, and it's so interesting when you mentioned, you know, West Ham and other clubs founded years and years ago, and you're starting that process now. What do you make of it, Hashtag United, as a project, and how far do you think they could go?
Well, Spencer and I have talked about Hashtag United in the past, and he knows I'm a Southend United fan. So we've had a conversation about the non-league. I can't believe I have to say that about my team. The non-league situation in Essex. I think the whole geographical thing is interesting. It's funny that Spencer, you know, I totally understand the name initially, completely makes sense. And other people are sort of trying to do this, the internet team or crypto team idea. I think it's definitely worth, it's a good thesis. Let's see. I do also hear, though, almost the counter argument, and you see this actually at the top end more than non-league, and that is the importance of place. So you'll notice a lot of the big teams now are really stressing where they're from. In fact, they're actually upsetting some of their fans by shoehorning the geography in. So I'm just intrigued really to I'd like to ask Spencer, let's just say the trend continues. I noticed you didn't get a promotion last time. But I'm actually, on that note, I do know it's very, very difficult. You know, I now live in Macclesfield, who of course are a Phoenix team. And they got 2 straight promotions and they got stuck last year. So it's difficult, right? 7th, 6th tier, it starts to get really, you know, start to play some teams with bigger budgets. So, Spencer, I'm intrigued. One, how you think, I guess, how this season goes. Slightly slow start, I did check. And then at what point you might add something geographical to your name.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So, to be fair, when we joined non-league, you mentioned it earlier that we had 3 promotions. So I had a 5-year plan. It was 3 promotions in 5 years, and we did it in 4. We actually technically did 4 in 4 because our women, which is another story altogether, got promotion. But that was based on a logic. It was based on I knew that level. So we're in a league called the Isthmian Premier League now, which is the same level that my dad was often associated with when I was younger. I knew roughly the budgets involved. I knew what it would take to be competitive there. I knew what we could get in terms of our revenue models from sponsors. So I kind of targeted that league. I said, I think that's probably where we sort of maybe level out a little bit. You know, the National League South is the next league, right? And you've got obviously huge travel costs, hotel stays almost on a weekly basis. So it just, everything goes up. Professional teams at that level as well. So we weren't desperate to get promoted last year, in answer to your first question. We did the same thing when we went into step 4, which was we wanted to level out for 1 year, understand the level. You know, we have really good recruitment opportunities with our fan base. So you know, it takes a good to almost spend a year seeing what players are out there. Who is there potential that we could bring into our project? So we did the same thing last year. I mean, what I would say now is we're kind of at the end of what I would say is like our second phase. So our first phase, if you like, was pre-non-league, YouTube, kind of, you know, mugs like me playing on the pitch. Then it was phase 2, which I'd say we've kind of culminated in now, which was getting to where we, in my opinion, belong. You know, and I say that, and I mean real kind of, with as much humility as possible. There's some teams in our league that I'm like in awe of that we get to play with. You know, like great teams like, you know, Lewis or who have a great fan base. Clubs like Dulwich Hamlet, you know, one of the most famous non-league teams. And then 3,000 people every time you go and play there. Like, it's so cool that we get to play them. I'm so happy about that. And I have no, like, you know, eyes bigger than my stomach thinking we belong in that league because we've got this many followers or whatever. Because, yeah, we do have a lot of followers, but equally our home attendances are pretty average for the league, right? And that's a whole different sort of point to what you were saying there about we don't have more people supporting us in where we're from than we do in the next town and next town. And that's proven by the fact that we had the highest average away attendance in the league last year. So with clubs like Lewes, Dulwich Hamlet, massive team, Hastings United, we had 300 or 400 more on average a week at our away games than any other team. So what's amazing about that, it's the business, discussion we're having here, is we make other teams money. We're really good for football. Whether you like our name or not, we're really good for football. Because when you go and play an away game, that gate receipt obviously goes to the home ground. The food and bar money, something we also don't benefit from as a tenant in a ground share agreement, that goes to that home ground. So statistically, the numbers don't lie. We are the highest attended away games last year because people that, let's say we're going down to somewhere like Lewes, in the South Coast. We haven't been there a lot before. We might have a lot of people in that town that are aware of us. They might not be coming to support us necessarily. I'm not immune to that fact. They might be sort of, shall I say, dormant Lewes fans that aren't going every week, but they come out for that game. This is nothing specific to Lewes, by the way. I'm just using them as a random example. But these guys will come out to sort of see the circus when it's in town, whether they're supporting us or supporting the other team. No one can argue that is not good for football. It's sometimes challenging for us because we almost create this beast that means we're outnumbered. Even though people are there to watch us, they might even not be supporting us. But we're good for football financially. We're also, we have a financially sustainable model, which isn't a thing that you get in football, really. Certainly not in the leagues around us. The teams we're now competing with have big budgets. They don't need to make sense. There's no financial fair play. It's usually a case of just a group of people that want to, have made great success in other businesses and they want to enjoy their weekends and put a load of money into a team. And I've got nothing against that, by the way. That's how football has sustained itself for a century. But I think we show something different. I think we show another way of doing it. And we're doing that in the women's game as well. We're beating teams like Newcastle United in the National League trophy. That is a fully professional team, one of the richest teams in the world, beaten by a team created off YouTube money. So whether you're a cup of tea or not, anyone that can argue with anything I just said and say that's not fact is wrong, basically.
But just on the point that, your away attendances are so brilliant, your fan base is so spread across the country for obviously varying reasons, that we do go back to Matt's point, don't we, of it could even improve your revenue even more. Yeah. Were you potentially to put that geographical side of things and maybe change that name? But is it something that you're seriously thinking about? Yeah,
so I don't disagree with that point. What we need to do is do both, right? So right now we have this, I always say we reverse engineered a football club. So we created this sort of global brand before we created the local brand, whereas it's something like Manchester United, we were 100 years old before they started conquering the world. We need to do the other bit, for sure. Because then we really start to win, in my opinion. Because then you have all the football revenue models of the food and beverage and all these gate receipts you can... we haven't really concentrated on improving our attendances yet because we've played on a number of different grounds and we haven't ever had a home. So it's one of those things you can't invest too much time in it. You don't know if you'll be there next year. We definitely need to do it. We've done some sort of things, like I mentioned to you earlier. We have got about 62 teams now across boys, girls, every single team you can possibly have, walking football, dementia football, inclusivity football. We have a 30-acre youth facility where you go down any weekend and you see hundreds of kids in yellow and blue, which is amazing to see. And that has started to not only lead to people, those guys feeling part of the club, coming to the senior games, it's also led to actually players coming through the system in some of our better teams, which is really cool, and sort of having our own prospects, if you like. The name, everything's always been on the table for Hashtag. I've never had any ego about it or we need to do this, we need to do that. I always just want to do the best thing for the club. And right now, there hasn't been a compelling case to change the name. So we have had and I'm not going to go into details about it, but we've had 4 or 5 different clubs offer us mergers over the years. We've had EFL clubs offer us what wouldn't theoretically be a merger, it would be a takeover.
Yeah, are you able to say who? Or?
No, definitely not. But we've had some very interesting discussions. And they would all involve some sort of name change or some sort of hybrid, whatever, brand, if you like. It probably will happen. It could happen next year, it could happen in 10 years. I don't know. It all depends on the case and the kind of benefits and negatives of it. I have my preference of what would happen. So, what I can tell you is I've always believed that the long-term future of us, if we really do kind of meet our potential, and I'll talk about this being the end of phase 2, right? The phase 3 to really happen, it needs other investors to come in. So we have had some investments. Cesare Palaqueta, the ex-Chelsea player, owns a minority stake in the club, as well as 1 or 2 others. But we probably need a new majority owner, because YouTube, you do all right out of YouTube, you don't do that well, right? Not when you're going to women's and men's games every weekend, you can't make videos. So that, and when I say it needs it, I don't mean we need it. We're perfectly sustainable where we are, but we need, if we want to kick on to where I think we belong, and I talk about our brand size, and that for me is professional football, and that would need someone who, and I don't want anyone to come in and invest money in the club just to be like every other club and lose money. I think we can continue to have a sustainable model, but by getting our own ground and doing other things, I think that we can really carve out a niche in football as one of the most innovative brands in football. So as I was saying, I think one of the future projects for us is actually maybe for Hashtag United to become like an umbrella term, maybe even like an MCO name of a network, and the hashtag is being united by a number of clubs who maybe have some sort of hashtag in the brand name, as well as a locality.
Almost like the City Group, that kind of...
Exactly like the City Group, but maybe with an extra twist, that is, we have this sort of, I don't know what you call it, like maybe brand guideline or brand Bible as to how we would operate a club. And it's always going to be, challenging the status quo. It's always going to be social media based. It's always going to be irreverent in its nature, challenging. And I think what you actually do then is you actually tie a number of clubs into a sort of identity that hasn't really been done. I know they've tried to do it. You've got Melbourne City, you've got the blue, and they wear the same colours. But I don't think there's a load of Man City fans that necessarily support Girona. Right? And I may be wrong about that, but I think there's a world where we can take our audience, which is quite strong, and have them support a network of clubs if we do it properly. But my pockets aren't deep enough for that, so that's a pipe dream at the moment.
Matt, I hope you've taken note about the YouTube money as well. I want to ask you about the ambitions in just a moment, Spence, but also, Matt, just non-league football as a whole at the moment, and as you mentioned, your club is involved, but the amount of money that is now you see at these different levels, how achievable do you think it could be for Hashtag, as Spencer says, if they do manage to get more of that investment, how achievable is it at the moment for them to rise and potentially break their way into the Football League?
Well, I think it is possible, right? I mean, it's not going to be easy. I think Spencer's realised that. But I don't mind the idea. I think the idea is good. I was thinking more when he was talking about, like the family. It's more like Red Bull. Red Bull are probably the most successful multi-club group out there. I know everyone focuses on City Football Group because they've obviously managed the City and they've won some titles elsewhere. But if you're looking for bang for buck, it's Red Bull. And they have a very clear identity. They play high-energy football. What is it they're trying to sell? A high-energy drink. It's all coherent. It's very, very coherent. And they are massively disruptors, a bit like Hashtag United. They've gone into every single market. They've ruffled feathers. They have a very recognisable style of play. It's player trading. It's young. They're like German coaches. It's coherent. That is the word. That all investors love the Red Bull model. Hashtag, maybe, yeah. With a little bit of that, we're everyone's team, right? We're global, right? And I hear Crawley Town tried it with the crypto investment. Bedford, there's another one. There's a few ideas out there. So I think Spencer's onto something. It's just going to be tricky, and it's tricky because non-league football is brutal. Yeah. It is absolutely. We've already heard that they don't do financial fair play, right? Yeah. They don't really do proper financial fair play till the Championship. Like Wrexham, Ipswich, those guys, Birmingham, are blitzing their way through Leagues 1 and League 2 at the moment because you can just pump money in, what they call football fortune. It makes it very, very difficult for anyone like Spencer who's trying to be sustainable. It's knife to a gunfight type stuff. So if you are trying to be sustainable, it's hard. So you've got to just max out on everything, merch, your strategy. Obviously, I don't need to explain to Spencer how you do digital, but it's absolutely everything you're trying to maximize. And I think the thing about non-league, and I've always been interested in non-league. I've had to take more of an interest in it because of Southend United and Macclesfield, my local team. So I've sort of seen a few levels of it now. You'll see these teams that can just go like comets. They can go through 2 or 3 divisions, and it will be the local Mr. Big often. Someone who's trying to maybe launder some money, launder some reputation, just show off, just have some fun, give something back. There are all these wonderful reasons and not so wonderful reasons for doing it. But you'll see they will absolutely blitz through 2 or 3 divisions. And then what tends to happen is the sort of gravity kind of takes over. It's like, how sustainable are you really? How big is your fan base? What's your ground like? What's your sort of player development story? Something tends to sort of hold them back. And I could give you sort of 10 or so of these clubs, but it doesn't really matter. It's nearly always the same thing. They sort of they get a bit too big too quickly. So there is a sort of sense of going at the right pace and actually having a sort of an idea of, well, I think this is about our natural size. This is our natural station in life. So I was really intrigued by what Spencer was saying about the possible exit strategy. You know, what is next? Is it a merger? I think that's fascinating, and I do think there's a lot of sense in that.
And given all of that, Spencer, it's a very tough question, of course, but where do you see Hashtag United in about 10 years' time? What league do you think?
Well, this is the thing. I think the first thing I'd say to that is, it doesn't matter what league. I don't actually attach any sort of desire to leagues personally. I look more at how can we be professional? How can we be a club that is maybe be able to attract better players, create a better environment? And I think if you get all those bits right, then you're going to be in the right league, essentially. If I was interested in getting to the EFL just for the sake of it, for example, I would have taken other deals that have been presented to me over the time, but it would have made no sense for us. We like I say, our home crowds are not even mid-table really in the league we're in now. So why would I want to be in League Two against be a away game every week, wouldn't it? And that does impact you on a pitch. You can't get away from that. So no, league-wise, I don't know. We could quite easily be in the same league we're in now, even a lower league, and be a better football club in terms of what we're doing in the community and what the content we're able to make and how we're able to sustain that. I would much rather still be around in 10 years, still be proving a new concept for how to do football. I'd love to be in our own ground. I'd love to be able to continue to do what we've done with our content, but take that into a match day experience situation as well, which we've never really been able to do. And I would love to be professional. Our women certainly are as good as you can now be without being professional, literally. We came second in the third tier last year, and the next step is professional football. We beat Newcastle, as I mentioned, amongst many other great teams. Including...
Yeah, keep mentioning that, my club.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. But including like Portsmouth, who ended up winning our tier last year as well. We were one of the only teams to beat them last year. So they're on the cusp now. They kind of need that opportunity even sooner than the men do. And as you know, the seventh tier, step 3 of non-league is kind of, if not the last frontier before professional football, certainly only one league before, which is the National League. So I'd love us just to be continuing to do what we're doing and kick on in our revenue models and be a... This is the thing that doesn't necessarily make a clickbaity YouTube video. It's like something that our young fans are going to love. But I think on this platform particularly, you will appreciate it, which is, we just need to keep making sense. The fact that we make sense, in my opinion, puts us in the top 1 or 2% of football clubs already, because most of them don't. And I say things like this and people kind of think I'm this sort of unemotional, super rational, non-traditional guy. It's not. I'm in non-league because I grew up loving non-league. I talked about how I love playing these other teams. I got some stick from Southend fans before. I was born overlooking Roots Hall. The house I was born in, you look out the window and you can see the stadium. I went to school in Southend. I probably wrongly have used Southend as a comparison more times than I should have because it means something to me. Where people thought it almost meant, oh, why is he talking about Southend all the time? But the other reason I talk about Southend, I know you mentioned Wrexham earlier, is for me, and obviously they've got new owners now and the attendances are up and it's looking like hopefully the start of a new dawn for them, is for me, they're a great example of what was another Wrexham opportunity, a sort of sleeping giant that's playing way too low a level. When I was at school, they were in the Championship or League One at least. And I think they should be around those levels. And they're a completely different, almost opposite thing to us. They are a really well-supported in-stadia team. Are they a massive club worldwide? No. But in their area, they are huge. They are absolutely massive. And, we can't be them. We might be able to be them one day. If we do some sort of deal that gives us a place, maybe in that, and realistically, we're talking decades and decades from now, we could be a club with that engaged a fan base in stadia. But what I need to concentrate on is what we can be now and what we can be over the next few years.
And just on that as well, it was always your dream, I believe, to be a football owner. I just want to ask you, and this goes for any level, how much sympathy do you now have with football owners and the decisions that they make? Because obviously there's so much scrutiny that they come under. Yeah. Now you are one. Where's the sympathy level that you have for a lot of them? Yeah,
well, I mean, I have sympathy for football owners who are doing it properly and are trying to do it properly. I have a lot of lack of sympathy for a lot of football owners, to be honest. I think they're in it for the wrong reasons. Certainly often in non-league, but in the higher up in the game as well. But what I am is a much better football fan now. So I'm a much better West Ham fan now. Other people will challenge you on that, and they'll say, hang on, you used to have a season ticket. You used to make videos going to West Ham all the time and, go all home. And, yeah, OK, so I'm at less games, sure. And I probably watch less West Ham, definitely. When I say I'm a better fan, what I mean is I can make better judgments on what's going on. I can understand, I can have patience and understanding the challenges that you talk about it, Football fans, by their nature, are uninformed. That's not their fault. They just don't get the full story, and people like, journalists and all these guys are out there trying to get you as much information as you can. And we've probably got more information now than we ever have before, but we're still not on the training ground. We're still not seeing what's happening. And it's not that you can ever expect to be that, but when you own your own club, you understand, I actually don't know what's going on. Okay, we're going to criticise Gareth Southgate for his team selections and all these things for England, but do we know what's happening on the training ground? Has there been a interpersonal issue? All these different things, we're never going to know. So you just get a bit more measured in your approach.